Okay, I am on a spinny wheelie chair to try and reach the top of my shelves. So if I fall over, we have to laugh together. That is the deal. You don't laugh at me, we laugh together. Now, I did one of these 8 months ago, and my shelves haven't changed too much since. Yes, I've got some new additions and I've changed around the ordering of things, but it's mostly the same. But I like that video. I'm very spry and young. You guys have aged me a lot in the last 8 months. Now I'm a weary, old, tired man. So if you want to see young, spry me with a microphone waving around and makes for a very annoying watch, you can go watch that. But I've got some new things updated to the shelves, and you guys have been absolutely incredible the last 8 months. The Spaced Out Reads community has grown so much. 7,500 of you guys. You have no idea what that means to me. I love making content for you guys and talking about books. I can't believe how many of you want to actually hear me talk about books. Just thank you so much to all of you. Like, I'm beyond grateful for it. Now, let's talk about some more books. Let's go through my shelves, starting top left with my editions of Brian Lee Durfee's The Forgetting Moon and The Lonesome Crown. Books 1 and 3 of his Five Warrior Angels series. These are two of my favorite covers on my entire shelves. This might just be my top 3 right here, or there's another one right behind it with Janny's books. But Five Warrior Angels, I've read this series, absolutely love it. It's top 15 all time for me. Brian is a top 15 all-time author for me. He could be top 10. I will have to judge that when I do my top 10 authors of all time video later this year. His prose is phenomenal. He also has a channel on YouTube. He's a fellow booktuber, but he does all his videos in one take, which impresses me so much. That is something I could only dream of doing. And his series is kind of like The Faithful and the Fallen, but with darker characters. He is someone that reads hundreds of books a year, and you can tell that in his writing. He is taken from all his favorite authors, and you can see that present in his writing. His prose is absolutely beautiful. His plot work is well thought out. His world building is deep and intricate with good lore. So if you do want good writing, good world building, good plot, and just despicable characters, you should check out this series if you can withstand the vile acts these characters commit. Now, I do have some Abercrombie secondhand hidden away, best served cold. Absolutely love that book. It was one of the 10 best books I read last year in 2024. But I already have some Abercrombie hidden away lower down the shelf that you guys can see. So we're giving prime shelf position to some of my favorite covers and favorite books. Next up, I do have some Tolkien on the shelf. It is important to me to get some Tolkien there. My other Lord of the Rings set is hidden away. So we give The Fall of Numenor some daylight time. But I haven't read this one yet. I do need to get to it. I just need to find some time to fit it in. But I saw this one at a bookstore last year and I just had to get my hands on it when I saw it. Then The Will of the Many, our first Australian author showing up on the shelves. This one took the world by storm last year. Just endless raving reviews about it. I didn't love it as much as everyone else because of the main character. I didn't find his motivations overly compelling. I found he was saying he wanted to do one thing and he was going to do something that didn't line up with what he wanted to do, which annoyed me. But the writing, the world building, the plot work, the pacing, all really well done. If you want a nice, compelling story, I do recommend this one, especially with the new book coming out later this year. This is a series you're going to want to jump into. It's like a fantasy meets Red Rising sort of storyline. Very good. And I'm expecting book 2 to fix my issues with book 1. Definitely a series I will be checking it. Definitely a series I will be continuing. Now, one of the first series to ever get put on this bookshelf, Mistborn Era 1 by Brandon Sanderson. This is now the only Sanderson I give prime shelf space to, as I've discovered a lot of authors in the last year, and Mistborn Era 1 is the one I want to give the most love to, as it's one of the primary series that brought me back into the fantasy genre when I rediscovered reading fantasy a couple years ago. I read The Shadow of the Gods, the first book of the Bloodsworn saga by John Gwynne, and then went onto YouTube, discovered Daniel Green's channel, and he said, check out Mistborn. Went to Mistborn, and well, now I have my own YouTube channel and I tell all you guys about books. These are slow builds, but still, Scadrial is one of my favorite worlds in fantasy. The magic system in Mistborn is still my favorite Sanderson magic system, and I have lent these books out to a lot of friends who have also had great times with this world. So although I have my gripes of Sanderson, especially after Wind and Truth, I still want to give Mistborn its props and give it prime position on this shelf, next to one of my favorite series of all time, The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne, one of my favorite authors of all time. This is just your classic hero's journey, prophecy sort of classic fantasy, but with John's modern writing voice. These are fast-paced stories, very good at action, and some of my favorite characters, both heroes and villains, in any series I have ever read. I read these books in a month, absolutely love them and recommend them all the time. As I mentioned before, it was John's Shadow of the Gods book that got me back into reading because I saw the cover, you guys know it, the big dragon on it. I saw it as I was just going through the bookstore, read it in a week, which for me was very quickly at the time. Now I read about 2 books a week, but at the time I was just reading nonfiction, and John got me back into reading fiction. I've got the first 2 books in the series lent out at the moment, so I just have this edition that was sent to me. That was sent to me by the publisher here at the moment. Look at that phenomenal cover. I personally have my issues with how the series finished with Fury, but the first 2 books are still 2 of my favorite books of all time. And I think I had my own personal gripes with Fury that you guys might not have. A lot of people give Fear of the Gods 4 out of 5 or 5 stars. So I think the issues I had with it that put it down to like a 3.5 were just me things and things that won't cause too much stress for a lot of people. And it's still definitely a series worth checking out, which I have plenty of videos all about John Gwynne on this channel. You just search up Spaced Out Reads and John Gwynne, you'll get a plethora of videos to watch. Now, this absolute stunner of a cover here, A Dirge for Cassius Part 1 by Callum Lott. Callum is a good friend of the channel, absolute legend, fellow Aussie. I haven't read A Dirge for Cassius yet, as Callum's just updating the book now to make it a bit of a nicer, smoother read, as this is his debut space opera novel. So I'm waiting for that new edition to come out before I read it, and I'll do that one on Kindle Unlimited. But absolutely love this cover, have to give it prime position on my shelf. I'm reading one of his books at the moment, Arcoma. This is an arc, it's coming out the 28th of January. And this one's kind of just like your classic Western set in space. Very good, fun read. I will talk more about that in my wrap-up video for January. Then hidden away at the back of my shelf, I have my Kingkiller Chronicles books with The Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear. If you can see, I've got a bookmark in Name of the Wind. I read the first 60 pages. I adored the first 55 pages, could not put it down. And then there was 5 pages of the main character just sounding way too up himself. I put the book down, covered it up, haven't thought about it again since. I know they're 2 of the most loved books in the genre, so I will get back to it. I do want to give Quoth a chance to win me over, but he just sounded so up himself, so cocky. I just instantly put down the book and haven't thought about it again since, though the writing, the world building, the setup was all really interesting. I do hope to get back to it one day. Now, dropping shelves, I do just have my Kindle here because I just think everyone needs one of these. Like, it just makes reading so easy. You can get library books for these, so you can go to the library without even leaving the house, get a ton of books for free and save a ton of money. I actually didn't pay for many of the books on this shelf. I got given quite a few by a friend who was throwing out books, and I've picked up quite a few from sales and deals, so you don't always need to have an expensive bookshelf. But going on to some of my secondhand books, I've got the Great Dune trilogy by Frank Herbert. I've read the first 2 books in this trilogy, absolutely love them. I don't know why I haven't got to the 3rd yet. I need to pick up Children of Dune. I absolutely love Frank Herbert's writing. I've only read 2 of his books, and he's probably a top 10 author of all time for me. And I think I might fit a Dune reread into this year. I don't have time for it, but I'll make time because it's just that sort of really good read. Have my Michael Moorcock editions here of the Elric saga. Just some of the most stunning covers. I've been very slowly working through these ones. You might notice I don't have volume 1 up here because it's been hiding down here because I've been just reading it a little bit on and off. These stories are really hard to find. The Elric stories are really hard to find if you look for them individually. So luckily Saga Press put these all together a few years ago. So if you want to work through Elric, they're all laid out in chronological order. You get about 4 stories in each book. I'm currently halfway through the 2nd story in the first book, so I've got a long way to go. And I have moments where I absolutely love the writing in the world, and then I have moments with this one where I find the story meandering and not going anywhere. So I go through motivational pumps where I get reading, and then times where I'm like, not that interested. The world building and the magic, though, is compelling. Elric as a character himself is really good. So I will get through more of these as the year goes on. Now we'll just put these ones back. And the next books I have are the most recent additions I have to my shelving. And these are the Wars of Light and Shadow books by Janny Wirtz. These are the only signed books on my shelves. I got these sent directly to me from Janny herself. And just look at these. The art for these ones was actually done by Janny herself. I've got one of her books next to my bed, but as I'm reading the Ships of Merior at the moment, but just look at the artwork Janny has done. Absolutely stunning. She put some absolutely lovely notes in the start of each of these books for me. Let's see if I can find it in here. To Dylan, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your appreciation and enthusiasm for my books. Just lovely work. I'm in awe of Jani's writing. This series to me is the combination of Malazan, The Wheel of Time, and Realm of the Elderlings. And yes, I put her in that same tier as Stephen Erickson and Robin Hobb. Just incredible writing, just a huge classic fantasy. Her prose is very full on. You will get a lot of new words that you might not have read before, and you'll find that you won't be able to read her books anywhere near as quickly as you read any other authors. But you just get transported to another world when you read Jani's books. So it might feel like work reading her books with that more denser prose, but the payoff for it is so real. And you just get a really rich story, really rich characters, really rich world. She just turns every dial up to the fullest, whether it's plot, whether it's characters, world building. Everything done to the absolute max. You need to check out Jani's books. Next off, you guys know Kristoff is my favorite author of all time. So any Kristoff book I have is on display. Firstly, the Nevernight trilogy, a revenge story set in a Roman-inspired world. These books are super fun. Jay Kristoff likes to include something just a little bit different in each of his books. And the different thing he does here is he puts in footnotes. So the world building for this story is done through footnotes. So if you do these on audiobook, the narrator actually reads these out, but doesn't tell you it's a footnote. So it sounds like the story is just going into some weird world of just world building and info dumping, but it's not actually what's happening. It's something that's happening off the page of the story. So be warned, if you do the audiobook, you'll get some just random info dumps. That's the footnotes. That's not Kristoff's actual story, but this is the author of these books talking back to you. So not Kristoff, one of the characters in the books is writing these and giving you some really interesting information for the story. God's Grave is like a fantasy version of Gladiator. The Good Gladiator, not the second movie that I refuse to watch, because why would you just mess up a good franchise? And then Dark Dawn, it's okay, but not as good as the first two books in this series. Coming across, we've got the one non-book thing on this shelf, which is my Mando helmet. I can't say I love the Star Wars franchise anymore. Disney has a way of ruining things for me. Did it to Marvel. Now I don't really watch any of the new Star Wars things that come out, but I did love Mando when that came out. Got this when I was in Bali, just off some random side street. Absolutely love that helmet. Got one for my best mate in gold, and he overlooks one of my prized collections, a book I got for free off a random leave a book, take a book shelf, Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, my favorite book of the Farseer trilogy, which I'm so excited to have this because I don't have any other Hobb, because I don't own any other Hobb, and she, as you guys know, she is one of my favorite authors of all time. Beautiful edition. Hidden away behind it, I've got Valley of Horses, the second book in the Clan of the Cave Bear series. I haven't read any of these books, but when I was younger, my dad would tell me stories before bed, and he would usually just tell me stories. And he would usually just tell me versions of the stories he was reading. So I have been told versions of these books in bedtime stories growing up, and I just want to read these books for myself one time. I picked this one up free as well, so hopefully I can get to it. And then I just had to find a space for my Dance with Dragons copy, as it's a different size to the rest of my Song of Ice and Fire books, so it just gets hidden away. Then lastly, I just have a beautiful stack of indie books over this on the side. Andy Pelican's Dark Blade Assassin series. Dark fantasy meets John Wick. Just a half-demoned assassin, huge body count, tons of action, a lot of fun. I think the page count could be about 200 less for this book in particular, but Andy's writing style is just very easy to read. Whenever I hit a slump, I jump into one of his books. If you do want to jump into Andy's works, I do recommend jumping into Queen of Thieves. Less fantasy, more just urban thieves. We're following someone as they're sold into a thief guild. They go through an academy, perform a heist. Next book in the series, perform a bigger heist. Third book in the series, basically saving the city from a rival crime gang. One of my favorite series of all time. I've done quite a few videos on this. Particularly, I did 3 more dark fantasy series to check out. This is one of them. I absolutely love Andy's works. I still have to get to his Shields in Shadow series. But from everything I've read from Andy so far, I've read about 9 or 10 of his books. He's never let me down. He sent me these books about a year ago, and I read 10 of his books last year once I started picking them up. So if you ever want action and dark fantasy, Andy Peliquin's your man for that. And then I have another indie author, Sam Middleton, who sent me his book. Now, this is the last book I allowed to get sent to me, as I just haven't gotten to this one yet, and I feel like if I haven't read a book yet, I don't deserve to get another book. I absolutely love the artwork here, but the amount of new words and terms on page 1 kind of just threw me off, where I just wasn't able to get into the book quickly, so I still haven't gotten to this one yet. Hopefully I'll get to it one day this year. But yeah, that is the top 2 shelves. Let's move down to the next 2. All right, so I went from standing on top of my wheelie chair to down on my knees praying to Kristoff because, as you guys know, this is my favorite book of all time. Prime position on my shelf. I got this edition from a Big W for like $10. I can't believe I was able to get a gold Empire of the Vampire for $10. The only issue with this book is it's really hard to show on camera because of how reflective the cover is. But you guys know this is my favorite book of all time. The maps are stunning, and if you need any more reason to read Kristoff, like, this guy puts illustrations all through his books in every single edition. This isn't just like some special edition thing. Every single edition of Empire of the Vampire or Empire of the Damned has just stunning artwork threaded through. Sometimes I just have to check it before I show you guys because there is some R+ scenes depicted in these books. Hidden away, I've got my Sun Eater books. So I've got Empire of Silence, Howling Dark, and then Demon of White in prime position. Demon of White being my favorite of the 3. Got to put it in a prime spot. Top 5 series of all time for me. Christopher Rocchio is just a truly phenomenal author. I smashed through all 6 books of the Sun Eater series last year when I discovered it. If you want some combination of Dune meets Name of the Wind, just beautiful writing, huge epic space opera, what are you doing? Go read Sun Eater now. You don't even need to watch the rest of my video. It's not that good compared to Sun Eater or Empire of the Vampire. So great series that you should get to. And I just love these UK covers, but I also love the US covers. I think Sun Eater has my favorite collective of covers of any series I have ever read, or any series I've seen covers for. Just look at that. Like, just really nice covers, really beautiful. And whether you get the US or the UK, you can't go wrong. Even though the UK normally wins when it comes to covers, I'm very happy Australia gets the UK editions rather than the US editions, because the US first law editions don't look great. Though I think you can get these ones anywhere nowadays. Look at these first law editions. How stunning are they? Just really tough books. So like, they don't always bend the nicest unless you do the page flippy thing, but really nice texture. Got that nice little bit of light. Absolutely love this series. Abercrombie goes and takes a classic fantasy story of your classic fantasy tropes and just flips all those tropes and stories on their heads. Gives you just the most real feeling characters you'll read, despicable characters that you want to cheer for. Just incredibly fun. I absolutely love those books, and Abercrombie is just someone I recommend for a ton of people. But next book over, actually some of the oldest books on this shelf outside of my A Song of Ice and Fire books and Harry Potter books here, The Demon Cycle by Peter V. Brett. This is something I discovered on a holiday about 10 years ago. The series I absolutely love. It's just really dark. The Painted Man is one of the best book ones to a fantasy series ever. And then it's highly debated whether the rest of the series holds up to that book one. I personally believe it does. I only had a couple issues with the ending in book 5 and absolutely love the rest. Though a lot of people say there was just too much going on, the story spreads out too much. I completely disagree with those people and just think this is really good dark fantasy. I've done a 3 dark fantasy series to read video where I cover this series, but this is a world where demons rule the night. At the end of the day, when the sun goes down, demons rise up from the ground, and if you're a human, you better be hiding behind your wards in a cowardly state, because there's nothing you can do to fight back against these demons until this man here finds a way to find some ancient wards and changes the game. Humans can now fight back against demons, but now humans can move around the night. Humans can now go and fight against each other. Humans against humans, whilst there's this ever-present threat of the demons. Absolutely incredible. I recommend this series so much for dark fantasy readers. I absolutely love it. Then, now we have all my Witcher editions. These are also one of the older sets of books on these shelves. This was the first fantasy series I read the year I got back into reading fantasy, but they weren't the books that got me back going. I read them very slowly. It took me about 6 months to get through the first 5 books. I haven't read the 2 short story collections, as at the time I didn't know that the short story collections came first before the main novels of the series. That's not advertised well. It's advertised that these are books 1 through 5, when really there's 2 short story collections that come first that you need to read first and are often raved about as being the top 2 books in the series. So I need to go find the other short story collection that goes with Sword of Destiny. I really love the world here. There's just a ton that goes on in the world building, but the thing about The Witcher that stands out for me is how much of the story is told through dialogue. There's not a ton of wasted space on each page where the author's telling you about the world and what the characters are doing after they say each thing. You can pick up what is happening in the world and the inflections our characters are giving based off what they are saying. I absolutely adore that and wish more authors did it. I think so many stories could be improved by including more of the story through dialogue and less just telling us about the world and how the characters' faces are changing. Then, talking about incredible dark fantasy series, We Are the Dead, Book 1 of the Last War trilogy by Mike Shackle. I've talked a lot about this one on the channel recently too. This trilogy reads like a John Gwynne series, just with really dark, messed up characters. The characters have incredible arcs. They go from one shade of unlikable to another shade of unlikable because of the horrible circumstances they go through in this. I talk a lot about this in my previous videos for the last month, so I won't say too much more, but it's a great series if you're looking for dark fantasy. Then a series I'm going to be diving into in March, The Empire of the Wolf trilogy by Richard Swan, first book, Justice of Kings. Look at that cover. It's stunning. I expect I'm going to love this series. Can't wait to dive into it. Then just hidden away behind my Demon in White is my Lord of the Rings box set. Nothing special, just a nice little box set edition of Lord of the Rings. Great series. Read them all very quickly. Need to get back to them and give them a better chance now that I'm a more experienced reader. Haven't read these bad boys in 5 years. This is my family's edition of A Song of Ice and Fire. What can I say? But Martin is as popular as he is because he writes incredible books that I absolutely adore. The world is the most alive world in my head of any fantasy series I've ever read. I need to reread these again so I can appropriately do my author and series rankings when I get back to it. Is this just a nostalgia thing that I absolutely love? I don't think it is. I don't rank it by nostalgia. I believe it is just one of the best works of fantasy, and I don't mind that it's not finished because there is just 5 incredible books that transport me to another world, another dimension, with so many great characters I just love getting in the head of. Beautiful writing, and I just believe it's as popular as it is for good reason. It's incredible. And yeah, if you want to hate on it for not being finished, you have every right to hate on it for not being finished. I'm just not going to agree with you, which is fine. Because as long as I agree with myself, I can sleep at night. Kidding, I sleep horribly at night. But moving on, the Harry Potter books, my sister's Harry Potter books. I read these for the first time last year or the year before last. Really great books. Don't have too much to say. They're perfectly fine books, and I don't know. They're dead books. Then I've got my Daniel Green books with Rebels Creed and Breach of Peace. Really like Breach of Peace. Had a great time with it. I've read it twice. Still haven't got around to this one because he's rewritten the books, which kind of annoys me that now I've got these books that he doesn't think are as good enough, so he's gone and rewrote them. So it just takes away my motivation to get back into it, though I want to read more of Daniel Green's books because he's just a great dude and really nice and just a great part of this community and helped me pick books to read when I was getting into fantasy because when I was rediscovering fantasy because of his lovely YouTube channel. And then I've got the Powder Mage trilogy by Brian McClellan. I haven't read these books yet. I don't know when I will. I really need to. They're just sitting here collecting dust. They absolutely look stunning. I just love these covers. I love the idea of flintlock fantasy like that, Napoleonic times with fantasy in it. And I've just got nothing to say, but they just look like really fun, dark fantasy in an interesting time period for this world. So I need to get to them, guys. Give me a reason to get to them. Write down in the comments your favorite thing about Powder Mage to make me get to those books. Oh, all right. Welcome down to the bottom shelves, hidden down out of sight of the camera, the ones you'd never get to see. So coming back to what I was talking about when we were back at the top, a lot of the books I didn't pay for. I got a lot of these for free when a friend was cleaning up someone's house and just said, hey, that's a lot of fantasy books you're throwing away. Can I give these to a friend? I was that friend. I got those fantasy books, which included about 30 Raymond D. Feist books, which I'm yet to read. Now, a couple of them I have lent out. One of my friends and clients is reading the Daughter of Empire, the Empire trilogy from the Raymond D. Feist Rithwar collection. They're Janie Wirtz books. So I don't have all of those. I only have Daughter of Empire here at the moment, but I have all the other ones. So the Raymond D. Feist books start with Magician. This book is now broken in two. It's Magician's Apprentice and Magician's Master. That doesn't sound right. You'll have to tell me what it actually is. But I just have a ton of lovely Raymond D. Feist editions. That one I actually ended up picking up wasn't Raymond D. Feist. I have a very nice old Dragonbone chair edition. Haven't finished this one. It was just too slow for me at the time when I was reading it, but very nice. And then lastly, down here, we've got some Stephen King Green Mile hidden down away. We've got that other Peter V. Brett book from the Demon Cycle. I've got a really classic fantasy by Maggie Fury. I just love this cover. I have no idea what this series is about. I have no idea if I'll ever read it, but that cover, I can't give that away. I need to check out this book. More Raymond D. Feist, some Terry Pratchett I picked up from just like a local library, leave a book, take a book. Just absolutely stunning. I've got my Stormlight books. You guys know these are two of my favorite books of all time. I did DNF Stormlight at Wind and Truth, which is a bit disappointing. So now these don't live at a prime position on my shelf because I just can't find space for them, and I just want to give some other books some prime spotlight. I still have those Mistborn books up there. Kaladin is one of my favorite characters in fiction. He's the reason I had to DNF Wind and Truth. I did not like what was happening to his story, to his character, to his voice that was changing. But these two books, absolutely phenomenal. They will never be going anywhere. They will be staying with me. And I do have Oathbringer in this same edition. My sister's just reading it at the moment. Wheel of Time. I should probably give these books away. I have the first three. I DNF'd this series halfway through book 7. I just couldn't keep going. It was just too much slowness. The story wasn't moving anywhere. We would have periods where we were just hanging out with a group of characters that are in one city while the rest of the story is going on elsewhere. And it would just be doing a whole day with one character, and then we would restart that day and do it with another character. Restart that day, do it with another character. There's a better ways to pace a book. Spend time with one group of characters, yes, but don't drag it out so long, Jordan. Robert Jordan. Oh my goodness. I know the last books of the series are incredible, but to me it is not worth reading 3 more books like a Crown of Swords. Don't even try. Don't even. Frankenstein, hidden away. Got this one for free. Absolutely stunning. I'll put these books back together as once I'm finished. But I'm just going to go through them. Got my mum's old edition of 1984. Beautiful. I think you just love old books. I don't know. I do. And my mum's old edition of The Hobbit. Stunning. Legend of Drizzt. I have to get to these books. Like absolutely stunning covers. They look beautiful. I need to read them. Just need to find the time. More books I got for free. The first 2 Narnia books. I don't know if I'll ever read them, but I just couldn't leave these for someone else to take. Had to get my hands on them. I, Robot, read this one last year. Mum's edition as well. Absolutely so interesting that Asimov was thinking about these things when he did. Actually, this is Mum's edition. I may have got this from a free library again. And same with Angels and Demons, Dan Brown. Super popular book. Lots of my clients love it. My dad loves it. I just wanted to read it, though I haven't got to it yet. Matthew Riley Contest. Picked this one up for free. All my other Matthew Riley books that I own are at my parents' house because he was the author I grew up on. He just writes action stories. Super fun. Absolutely love his books. And then a Star Wars book, Darth Plagueis Legends. Absolutely love this book so much. This was what was great about Star Wars before Disney came and ruined it. This was a really fun book just about Darth Plagueis the Wise. Come on, guys. Great stuff. Now, I'll show you guys one of my shelves of shame hidden over on the other side of the room. I just realized I completely missed this middle shelf here. I just went and talked about the bottom shelf here, made an absolute mess of books, and didn't talk about a whole shelf, and I was just going to run off. So let's fix that now. So just all the Raymond D. Feist books I was telling you about, these are the hard copies. I've either got a big copy or these little small ones. I don't know which one's trade, which one's what. Have all of those. Legends and Lattes, picked up really cheap from a Big W. It's a really short book. It's a cozy fantasy. I need to read this next time I need something to break me out of a reading slump. So put some hype for this one down in the comments, because actually I should get to this one soon. I didn't have it lined up in my TBR, but I should get to it, guys. Would you guys like to see a reaction video to this, actually? Let me know. The Children of Gods and Fighting Men. This used to be up in Prime Selection to get viewing spot, but I had issues with how the third book in this trilogy ended. This whole trilogy is building up really great characters in late 10th, early 11th century Ireland in a historical fiction fantasy setting, and it just builds really well throughout the entire series. Not too much action happens. It just builds up to the last book of this trilogy, the last 25% of the third book, and then the whole plot just loses its way. It goes off on this just really interesting spot where the story has to match the history, but the actions of our characters don't line up with the characters that we've got to know over the last 3 books, and it doesn't wrap up in a satisfying section for a trilogy. It just sets up another series, which really annoyed me, so it doesn't get the prime shelf position that it used to. Now, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, you guys know I love Martin. If I had space for this up higher, I would put it there, but I just don't. I absolutely loved reading this. Read this one with a friend. Really good, just incredible character dynamic between Dunk and Egg. Really, 3 really good short stories that just did a great job to continue to build the world of Westeros for me. Another Terry Pratchett book I just had sitting around, The Truth. Absolutely loved The Truth. What am I talking about? I haven't read The Truth. Guys, I have been talking for too long. I am now talking nonsense. I'm not even talking the truth about The Truth. I love Terry Pratchett. I've loved all the Terry Pratchett I've read so far. So whenever I see it sitting around at a free book nook to take, I'd get my hands on it. Then, last book on this shelf, Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I haven't read these yet. I need to. It's a lot of short story. It's a lot of shorter stories I need to get to at some point in time. These books are incredible from what I hear. She's an incredible writer, so I'll get to them when I can. Now, we can pop over to the other shelf. So, the shelf that doesn't get seen, a lot of Sanderson, Mistborn Era 2. It's perfectly fine. I call this like a really good 3.5 out of 5 series. It's fun, it's detective work, it's Sanderson's humor, but because you know he's trying to be funny in all these books, you can kind of just get on with it and deal with it. When he does humor in Stormlight, it really sucks because Stormlight is such a serious book with really deep themes and really deep explorations of mental health. So it really just goes off tone of the book. When he's doing these, you know he's just going to put his bad humor in there, so you kind of just deal with it and move on. A couple of Star Wars books I haven't read. My friend absolutely loves them. My best friend really loves them. So I might read them one day, but I make no promises because they're new Star Wars books, not Legends. That's the Star Wars I'm inclined to read. I read Kings of the Wild last year. I couldn't stand it. I thought there was just absolutely no stakes, and the humor wasn't for me. So I won't be reading Bloody Rose. So this just stays hidden away on this shelf. Then all my Cormac McCarthy books. I've read The Road and No Country for Old Men. Loved both of those. Plan to get to Blood Meridian, All the Pretty Horses, and Seas of the Plain this year. And then I'll probably work in The Crossing if I loved all those ones. And yeah. And that is my updated bookshelf tour. I kind of lost the plot as I went through this video. I just didn't realize how much I had to say about all these books. I probably went on way too long, but books get me excited, guys. I hope they get you as excited as they do me, and you had a good time seeing my shelves. Thank you so much for watching. Just have a great day, guys.